The sky above Earth was no longer blue, it was a dull, heavy gray, always veiled by the shadow of alien patrol ships drifting silently like vultures waiting for something to die. The once busy cities now looked like broken bones towers stripped of glass, streets full of dust, and giant banners of the Korth Dominion hanging over what used to be human government buildings. Every day was the same. The alien enforcers walked the streets in pairs, their tall armored frames moving with perfect precision, their strange metallic voices barking orders in a language most humans still could not understand. People had stopped looking up. No one dared to meet the gaze of the patrols. To survive, you kept your head down, you worked, and you hoped you wouldn't be noticed. Jace Ward knew that rule better than anyone. He kept his hands busy and his mouth shut, hauling cargo at the old dockyards near what used to be San Francisco's port. The Dominion had turned the place into one of their central supply depots, where human workers loaded and unloaded alien freight all day long. To the guards, Jace was just another worker, average height, unremarkable face, a man who looked tired and beaten like everyone else. But what they didn't know was that Jace had once been a soldier. Long before Earth fell, he had fought in its last defense, piloting ground mechs in battles that lasted only minutes before alien weapons tore through their ranks. He had survived the fall of Earth by disappearing, burying his old life so deep no one could find it. But today, something different was waiting for him. It happened during a break, when the dockyard was eerily quiet, except for the hum of alien machinery. Jace noticed a small black metal container wedged under one of the cargo pallets. It was far too clean, too new to be part of the usual scrap. Curiosity burned in him, but he hesitated. Anything out of place could be a trap. He glanced around, no guards in sight. Slowly, he knelt and pulled the container free. It was about the size of his palm, with strange human-made markings scratched on the side. His heartbeat quickened. Jay slipped the object into his work jacket and finished the shift without another word. Only when he reached his cramped apartment in the underground workers' quarter did he open it. The container clicked softly, and a small hologram flickered to life in front of him. A woman's face appeared human, her hair tied back, her voice low but fierce. "This is Captain Lyra Kane of the Free Colonies. If you're hearing this, you are not alone. We have heard the cries from Earth. We know the Dominion enslaves your people. We are fighting them, system by system, and we need you to rise when the time comes. Spread this message to anyone you trust. The galaxy must see Earth's chains and break them." The hologram vanished, leaving only silence. Jace sat frozen, his mind racing. For 10 years, Earth had been told the same thing. No one was coming. Humanity beyond their world was either extinct or too afraid to fight. But this message, this single fragment of hope, proved they were wrong. Somewhere out there, humans were still fighting, still alive. He wanted to believe it. But he also knew the price. The Dominion crushed rebellion with a swiftness that left nothing but ash. If he spread this message and was caught, the punishment wouldn't just fall on him. The Dominion would hunt down everyone he'd spoken to and make examples of them in the city square. That night, Jace didn't sleep. He walked the dim, narrow corridors of the workers' district, listening to the quiet breathing of people who had forgotten what freedom felt like. The more he looked, the more he realized how beaten everyone seemed. Hollow eyes, slow movements, a silence that clung to them like a second skin. He thought of the battles he had fought, the friends who had died with weapons in their hands. In the bitter moment when Earth's flag had been torn down and replaced by the Dominion's black and silver crest. And he thought of that woman's voice, carrying a fire that hadn't burned on Earth for years. By dawn, he'd made his choice. The sun barely pierced the gray clouds as Jace walked back to the dockyard. Every step felt heavier, as if the city itself was warning him to stop. But in his mind, the decision was already set. He would not pass this message to just anyone. He would find the few who still remembered how to fight. Somewhere in this city were the last sparks of resistance, buried deep but not gone. As he entered the yard, the alien guards scanned him with their glowing eyes, finding nothing unusual. They saw only the dock worker, did not see the soldier. Awakening again far above, one of the patrol ships shifted position, its shadow sliding slowly across the ground. Jace glanced up at it not with fear this time, but with something the Dominion had worked for years to erase from humanity. Defiance, and deep inside him, under the weight of years of silence, something dangerous began to grow. The rain fell in. Slow, cold sheets, turning the cracked streets of the workers' quarter into shallow rivers of black water. Jace moved through the shadows, his hood pulled low, his hands shoved deep into his coat pockets. The small hologram device was still there, its metal warm against his skin, as if it carried not just a message, but a heartbeat, every few steps. He glanced over his shoulder not because he feared ordinary patrols, but because he knew the Dominion had hunters. Not the armored guards who kept order in the streets, but the cloaked agents who moved unseen, trained to sniff out any sign of rebellion and erase it before it spread. If they found him with this message, it would not end with his death. He had decided not to act in the open. Not yet. The people here had been broken for too long. Couldn't just stand in the middle of a street and shout about freedom. It would only get you and everyone who heard you executed. No, this had to start smaller, quiet, hidden, like a spark buried in dry wood, waiting for the right wind. The first person he thought of was Mara. Years ago, she had been part of Earth's orbital defense force, running supply routes to the final battle before the Dominion's fleets burned through them. She had vanished after the surrender, and Jace had later found her working as a mechanic in one of the underground vehicle bays. If there was anyone who still had the skill, the anger, and the courage to take a risk, it was her. The bay was dim, smelling of oil and rust. The hum of alien power tools echoed from the far end where Mara stood bent over a broken cargo hauler. Her hair was tied back, her clothes stained with grease, but her movements were quick and sharp still as soldiers' hands. Jace waited until the other workers left for lunch before stepping closer. "You look like hell," Mara said without looking up. "Or maybe just the same as always." "I need to talk to you," Jace said quietly. Privately. Looked at him, her eyes narrowing. Private talk usually means trouble, and trouble here doesn't end well. Reached into his coat and pulled out the small black container. "Just watch." The hologram flared to life again, casting the image of Captain Lyra Kane into the dusty air. Her voice filled the bay, low and urgent. "We are fighting them, system by system. We need you to rise when the time comes." When it ended, Mara just stared at the empty air for several long seconds. Then she stepped forward and shut the bay doors. "Where did you get this?" "Dockyard, hidden in a cargo pallet." "It's real, Mara. There are humans still out there, and they're winning battles." Her jaw tightened. "You know what happens? If the Dominion finds out you have this?" "I know," Jace said. "But if we bury this message, nothing changes. If we share it carefully, maybe we wake a few people up." Mara wiped her hands on a rag, pacing the length of the bay. He could see the battle happening inside her, fear on one side, that old stubborn fire on the other. Finally, she turned. "To him, if this is a trap, we both die. If it's not," she glanced at the closed doors as if expecting them to burst open any second, "then maybe it's the first step." Jace nodded. "We find a few we trust. Only the ones who still remember what it felt like to fight. We build slow, quiet." Mara's lips twitched into the ghost of a smile. "And when the time comes, then we burn the chains," Jace said. But neither of them noticed the small glint high on the wall, a needle-sized lens shifting to follow their movements. Somewhere deep inside the Dominion's surveillance hub, an alien observer leaned closer to its screen, its clawed fingers tapping out a silent alert. The spark had been lit, and already the shadows were watching. The air in the workers' quarter felt different the next morning, thicker, heavier, as if the city itself sensed something was about to break. Jace moved quickly through the narrow back streets, keeping his head low and his steps quiet. Had met Mara before sunrise in the mechanics bay, and together they had chosen the first names. Not too many, just enough to test the waters. They called in Darian, an ex-miner whose arms still carried the strength of swinging a plasma drill, and Lynn, a street medic who had once patched up soldiers in Earth's last defense line. They gathered in a forgotten storage room under one of the old tram stations. The walls lined with rusted shelves and the floor littered with broken crates. Jace placed the hologram device in the center of the table. "You need to see this," he said. Lyra Kane's message played again, her voice steady and full of something none of them had felt in years' hope. When the light faded, there was a long silence. Darian's jaw clenched, and Lynn's hands trembled slightly. "This could get us all killed," Lynn said at last. "This will get us all killed if we just sit here and do nothing," Mara answered, her voice hard. "We've been bent so long. We forgot we can stand. This is a reason to remember." They talked in hushed voices for over an hour. The plan was small, barely more than a test. The Dominion's supply warehouse on the edge of the city kept weapons, food, and tools under heavy guard. Jace's contact in the docks said a small shipment of human-made tech was stored there, scavenged from the old war. The plan was to take it, not destroy anything, not yet, just take what they could carry and vanish before the Dominion realized anyone had dared. Night came quickly in the city, the pale alien lights casting everything in a sickly green glow. Jace, Mara, Darian, and Lynn moved like shadows through the lower alleys, their breaths fogging in the cool air. The warehouse loomed ahead, its metal skin glistening with condensation. Guard drones humming lazily along the perimeter. Darian worked on the lock, his thick hands surprisingly delicate with the alien tech. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing rows of crates stacked higher than their heads. The smell of oil, metal, and something sharp filled the air. Lynn slipped inside, first scanning for motion sensors, while Mara and Jace began prying open crates. Inside, they found what they had hoped for: human pulse rifles, stripped of power cells, a handful of battered armor pieces still marked with the faded crest of Earth's defense forces. They worked fast, hearts pounding, every noise sounding like an alarm in their ears. Jace was lifting a crate when a faint metallic click froze them all. A guard drone had entered through the far door, its red sensor light sweeping slowly across the room. "Down," Mara hissed, pulling Jace behind. A stack of crates. The drone paused, its sensor beams sweeping dangerously close. Lynn gripped a metal rod, ready to swing if it came any closer. Then silence. The drone turned and drifted out through the opposite door. They didn't speak again until they were blocks away, the stolen weapons hidden under a loose panel in the tram tunnel floor. "This is how it starts," Jace whispered, his voice trembling not from fear, but from the rush of it. But in a dark chamber miles above the city, a Dominion overseer was already reviewing the night surveillance feeds. One grainy clip caught its attention: for human figures moving through the shadows near the warehouse. The overseer's mandibles clicked in quiet satisfaction. It didn't sound an alarm. It's not yet. Sometimes it was better to let a spark burn brighter, so the fire could be crushed all at once. Rain fell in thin, cold sheets over the city, tracing silver lines down the tall black walls of the Dominion towers. From the upper decks, the alien overseers watched the streets below like hunters watching prey in a cage. The rebellion was spreading, not openly, not yet, but whispers moved faster than the rain. Jace didn't like it. Felt wrong. The stolen weapons were still hidden in the old tram tunnels, untouched. More humans had joined them: dock workers, scavengers, a few ex-soldiers who had survived the war. But every time they met, every time they whispered plans in the dark, Jace felt eyes on him. The Dominion had made no move against them since the warehouse job. No sudden raids, no new patrols, no arrests. It should have been a good sign. Instead, it made his skin crawl. On the other side of the city, in the cold heart of the Dominion command spire, Overseer Varn studied a glowing tactical map. Red dots pulsed faintly across the display: humans they suspected of subversion, their locations updated in real time.
Ow.
The net was already drawn. All that was left was to tighten it. "Not yet," Varn told his second-in-command, when asked if they should strike. "They must believe they are invisible. Only then will they gather together. Only then will they show us all their leaders." Meanwhile, the rebels pushed forward. Mara insisted they needed a bigger act, something that would prove to every human in the city that the Dominion could be hurt. Their target became the power relay station, a squat fortress of metal and cables that fed energy to half the lower districts. Taking it down wouldn't free Earth, but it would send a message. They spent days studying guard shifts, mapping the approach, memorizing escape routes. Darian found an old maintenance shaft that led under the relay, a tunnel barely wide enough to crawl through. Lynn built crude explosives from scavenged parts, wrapping them in rags to hide the glow of unstable cores. The night of the strike, the city seemed too quiet. No drones buzzed overhead. The patrols were late. Jace's nerves screamed at him to call it off. But Mara's fierce determination pulled the group forward. They slipped into the maintenance shaft, crawling through damp darkness until the smell of ozone told them they were close. Darian forced open a rusted grate, and they entered the belly of the relay station rows of humming converters. Their blue light flickering on the rebels' faces, Lynn began setting the charges, her hands steady, despite the sweat dripping into her eyes. That was when Jace heard a faint mechanical whir, almost masked by the machines. His head snapped up. A red light blinked in the shadows. Then another. And another. Drones, he hissed. Before anyone could react, the relay doors slammed shut. A cold, artificial voice filled the room. Humans detected. Containment protocol active. Lights roared to life, blinding them. Drones poured from hidden hatches, their stun weapons humming. Mara grabbed one of the rifles they had stolen. Weeks ago, had no power cell, but she swung it like a club, knocking the first drone into a sparking converter. Darian roared and smashed another to the floor. Jace shoved Lynn toward the grate, yelling for her to crawl back. They fought their way to the shaft, retreating into the dark. Behind them, the Dominion didn't give chase. Trap had worked. They didn't need to capture them now. They only needed to follow them home. The first explosion shook the streets like a giant's fist slamming into the ground. Windows shattered in a deafening chain reaction. People screamed and scattered as a column of black smoke rose from the eastern market. By the time Jace reached the scene, the air was already thick with the sharp stench of burning metal and charred stone. Dominion enforcers poured in from all directions, their armored boots pounding against the pavement, rifles glowing with cold blue light. This wasn't an attack by the rebels. This was a purge. They weren't hunting a single cell. They were burning whole districts. Any human caught in the open was ordered to the ground. Anyone who ran was shot. Drones swooped low, scanning faces, marking suspects with bright red beams for the ground troops to seize. Mara appeared beside Jace, her face pale, but her eyes blazing with fury. "They know," she said, "the relay job. They let us get away." Jace's stomach turned cold. "They followed us back." Even as they spoke, more detonations echoed from the south and west. This wasn't random, it was the Dominion's trap snapping shut around every known or suspected rebel. The fire wasn't just in the streets, it was in the people's hearts. Somewhere in the chaos, a group of dock workers armed with stolen tools and pipes attacked a Dominion patrol, screaming defiance. The aliens responded with energy grenades that tore through the crowd in blinding flashes. It should have been the end. It should have broken the will of anyone who thought about resisting, but instead, the violence lit something deep inside the city, in the old tram tunnels. Hidden transmitters came to life, broadcasting a single message across the underground network: "Rise now, or die as slaves." Within hours, the riots began. First in the lower districts, then in the markets, then in the residential tiers. Humans dragged barricades into the streets, overturned Dominion patrol skiffs, hurled firebombs at the armored spires. The Dominion, caught off guard by the sheer scale of the chaos, split their forces to contain the uprisings. That mistake gave the rebels their first real chance. Jace and Mara led a strike team through the burning alleys toward an ammo depot in the heart of the city's garrison district. If they could take it, they could arm hundreds, but the closer they got, the more Jace's gut twisted. The streets were too empty here. No civilians, no rebels, only silence broken by the faint hum of machines. Then he saw them, rows of Dominion war mechs, standing perfectly still in the shadows, their armor gleaming like wet stone. The mech's eyes flared open, one by one, and Jace realized too late, this wasn't the Dominion being unprepared. This was them unleashing something they had kept in reserve. For when humans became too dangerous to keep alive, the mech's first volley tore through the street, vaporizing walls and throwing chunks of stone into the air like a storm of knives. Jace dove behind an overturned skiff, the heat from a near miss searing across his back. All around him, rebels scattered for cover, but the machines were relentless, firing with precision. Each blast designed to kill, not warn. Mara's voice crackled in his ear. "We can't beat them here. Fall back." But Jace didn't move, not because he wanted to die, but because he saw something. One of the mech's armor plates was glowing faintly, just above the left hip. A power conduit, exposed, probably from the heat of its own weapons. He grabbed the last EMP charge from his belt and glanced at the burning sky. "Mara, if I hit that joint, will the overload take out the others?" There was a pause. "Take out everything in 100 meters, she said, including us." The mechs advanced, their heavy steps pounding like war drums. Jace didn't think about dying. He thought about the chains around Earth. He thought about the children forced to bow in front of alien soldiers. He thought about the fact that no one in the galaxy believed humans could fight back. He ran. The world became a blur of fire and smoke as he sprinted toward the largest mech. It fired. He felt the air scream past as the blast missed him by inches. Leapt, slamming the charge into the glowing conduit. For half a heartbeat, the machine froze, confused. Then the street turned into a sun. The shockwave threw him into the wreckage of a collapsed shop. His ears rang, his vision blurred, but he saw it. The mechs were down, all of them. Some lay smoking, others in pieces. Mara's hands were on him, dragging him to his feet. "You mad bastard," she said, almost laughing through the dust and blood. "You just gave us the city." But it wasn't just the city. The explosion had been visible, for miles, even from orbit. And in that moment, across human settlements and mining colonies, across slave barracks and labor ships, the message spread faster than the Dominion could contain it. Earth fought back and won. In the following days, the uprising spread beyond the city, beyond the planet. Entire workforces refused orders. Ships were hijacked. Alien collaborators were overthrown. The Dominion tried to crush the movement with overwhelming force. But for every human they killed, 10 more rose up. It wasn't rebellion anymore, it was a war. And at the center of it all was a name whispered. Like a legend, Jace, the man who brought down the mechs. The man who lit the spark. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy looked at humans not as slaves, but as a threat. And deep within the Dominion's War Council, plans were drawn not just to put down the uprising, but to erase Earth from the stars forever.